Hello everybody, my name is Christian Quick and welcome back to another video. Today we are going to be talking probably about one of my most favorite topics because I love status effects, and once you start understanding these more and more, you're going to love them too, hopefully as much as I do. So, what makes status effects cool is that it's not that they're situational, it's the fact that they're timeable, and it's you can make it situational. So let's go into basically our little package here, and let's make a new package, and let's call this one um, effect. And inside of our effect folder, we are going to make a new class called custom effects. And inside of here, we want to call basically there isn't much of there is a registry, but to have the registry you're going to have to call the status effect anyways. So let's just start with a public static, and then we're going to type in status effects, singular, not plural. So just do effect, and then here you would type in your effect. But first thing I want to do is import the class, and then I want to take a peek at the status effects, right? So here okay, so we have some things in here like regeneration. I can show you where we can apply stuff like this if you want it like that. You're also going to need apply update effect for certain things. Um, this isn't the one I was thinking of. Let's try and look up, let's put a little S on it. That way we can pull the little class. So we'll put in status effects, and then, yeah, these are the cool ones. These are the ones that we're used to looking at, right? And you'll notice that they're not all here. These are all the ones with an ID on them, but they're generally on here. Well, actually no, they should all be here, right? So like, yeah, regen is here, but you'll notice that it but like how is it working? Status effect register, 10 register, status effect category is beneficial, and then it's got a color. But some of them have this thing called add attribute modifier, and on top of that modifier it says entity attributes generic attack speed. There's a couple generics. I'm not too sure. I'm not too sure what all of them do. I tried to do one for generic flying speed, and it didn't necessarily do anything. So I'm going to assume that the only ones that work are the only ones that are getting called, and the only ones that are getting called are these ones. So if you have an effect, you want to have something to do, and when it's your first effect, you have no idea, like, what kind of effect do I want to do, right? I'm gonna have to give you some instances. So let's make one, and we're gonna call it we're gonna call this Deathsomnia, and it's because what do I want this effect to do? I want this effect to kill me if I sleep. Very odd, but we're gonna go with it. Save Deathsomnia to my, I don't even know if that's how you spell somnia, but we're gonna go with it. So, I'm gonna put in the registry, and then I'm gonna show you a couple things of how to do other effects, and I'll show you what the official. We'll get to the official when we get there. So public static, and then you're gonna call the status effect singular, and then this is where we are going to need to call our register. Oh, this one at top also is gonna have to be like that too. All right, and then we're gonna have to call it register. And then I would recommend calling the effect. So here we're going to call it Deathsomnia. And then we'll write effect. And this is going to need a string and a name. So this is normally what we do when we register things. And this is when things are going to start getting a little bit interesting. So inside of here, we're going to do the return registries, registry with the T on it, dot register registries plural dot status effect. Oop, that's sound event. They both have an SE, so we're gonna ignore that happened. New identifier, and that it has to have your string ID, and your ID is going to be your whatever your thing is dot mod ID, and then you would have to call name because it's going to copy what this is. If I decide to call this ID, then this is going to have to be called ID. That's like the basic point of it. Now, if I try and end it with this explanation, it's going to say, hey, there seems to be a problem here. You're cannot resolve all this stuff. And it's like, why? Well, that's because you need to call the status effect in here. And to fix this, we're going to have to call the registry inside of here, right? But we're going to have to call a new class, and to do that, before we get into finishing this, let's make the new class, and this class is going to be called what we decided to call our effect. Deathsomnia effect, just like that, and this is going to extend status, and this is going to be singular status effect. And then it's going to say, hey, you're going to need to import some of the stuff. You want it to be a, oh wait, never mind. It's not going to do that. Silly me. There is a couple things that are like that. So, remember how we said something earlier about you're going to need to do the apply and the other one? So let's work on let's try and snap those real quick. So for the apply update effect, let's just drag this whole thing. Control C, and then Control V. All right. So apply update effect. This is basically saying if this status effect is equal to regeneration, if the entity.getHealth is less than the maximum health, then it's going to heal the entity. And that makes a lot of sense. Now, all of these are if-else statements, meaning we don't need them. But if you want to read through all of them, go for it. Let's change status effects to custom effects and change this to the Deathsomnia effect. And it is being registered, even though it doesn't do anything, but it's going to grab it from here. And now it's basically saying if, and it's going to do the same thing as regeneration. And from here, remember, I said I want to kill it when it's sleeping. So first, let's try and get, if I say entity dot, and let's say is, and there is a lot of is statements that you can do. It has to be, I would choose something that is either true or can be false, something that is variable, unless you want it to always be working while they have the effect, or always, well, I don't know why you would do not working. So like if you said like is baby or is dead, now if they're alive, those are always going to be false, and so the effect isn't going to do anything. So those would be kind of pointless. But is part of game will always be true. So if you want this to always be true while you're doing this, you could just kind of set it to anything that is basically just true. Which I think you could say like is player. If you want it to always be true, that is a pretty good one to probably use. But if we just say is, here is wet is when it's raining, when you're in water or inside a bubble column, inside of water or a bubble column. So there's a bunch of variants. If you want to, well, this is probably the easiest way to go through all of them, is to just kind of go through and then just be like, hey, what do all of these do? And these are basically your statements, your if this, then this. So let's basically go to what I was saying. If the entity is sleeping, right now it says it's going to heal me if I'm sleeping. Now, that wouldn't be deathsomnia. That would be like healsomnia or something like that. So let's go on to the entity dot. And once again, we're going to say if I am sleeping, then I am going to have damage to myself. So I could say damage, and then I could do what damage dot drown, and then I could put myself at 100 damage, and that will definitely kill me. That is not a very good way to put it, but you could do it like that. I'm going to be doing a very simple one. Entity dot. You could do heal. You could do kill. This is the one I'm actually going to be doing, so I'm actually going to keep that in there. Let's look at the other ones while we're here. Entity dot, and then so heal. You could set them on fire for a certain number of seconds. When something says is, this is basically kind of like a question. So like if the entity is sleeping, and then asking the entity is wet, I mean it doesn't make the entity wet. It's just basically asking if he's wet, or I think that's how that is. Otherwise, there is no get wet. If the entity is get wet, that's basically what is wet is. So just kind of do entity dot and then just kind of go for what it is that you're looking for. You can teleport him to a random location. Why would you do this? I have no idea. Um, because then I think it's gonna be like position. Wait. Get x. Hold on. Entity dot get x. Particle effects. True. You can set that to true or false. And then how do I teleport them? Let's say I just said I want to teleport you 100 blocks in the air. Doing plus 100 will do. If I said that I wanted to put you 1,000 blocks away, I would just take the x and z and then simply add add 1,000. You can also use minus 1,000. That will put them in the opposite direction. So that would be teleporting a player to just a random location. So that would be kind of annoying. um, Set on fire. There's another one where it's like is lava. Let me type in lava. Is set fire from lava. I don't think you can set a number of seconds like you can do with the entity dot set on fire with the, and then I could set you on for like 5. Oh wait, that's true. Entity dot fire set on fire 4, and then I could literally say 10 seconds and you'll be on fire for 10 seconds. Also would be very annoying. So we're going to get rid of these because those are just some examples that I'm trying to show you. Um, this stuff does get really, really interesting. Um, like when you start learning all of the if statements and then all of this is stuff that we're going to be getting to in the series that comes after this when I talk about methodology, because we're going to be talking about what are these and what are the requirements that each one are going to be, like each one is going to be needing, and you're going to learn what each one basically does, and we're going to go through all of these. This is the first time in this series that I'm really going to be talking about uh, this, because it is very important. And if you know what all these things are, what you're calling, what you need, what you're making, then your experience is going to be a lot more fun because you're going to feel like you seriously know what you're doing. So back to what I wanted to do. Public void apply effect living entity. So if I have Deathsomnia and I am sleeping, then kill me. That is a very, very simple effect, right? When we go into, there's another one that's can apply update effect. That works with things that are based on their like regeneration. So like for these ones where it's got the apply update effect, so it's going to heal the entity, but notice how it doesn't just heal you instantly, right? That's because there is this thing called can apply update effect. So if you have regeneration and I is equal to 50 and less than the amplifier, it'll increase it by a percentage based on. This is confusing me. um, the best thing you can do in this point, I kind of have an understanding. I can read it and kind of understand what it's asking. I'm I cannot explain it. So when it comes to this, the best thing I would say is just copy this and then change these numbers to however you feel. You always would want this to, if this is more than 0, you can change this to whatever, and then you can change the percentage equals 0, well, because you want it to do that. So I just changed that number. And it will, just like how they did it with this one, they just changed the number, change this one. Yeah, see? So you would just want to change this number, and that will relate to the speed of how fast it is going. I think that the higher the number, the faster the effect will go. Could be wrong, but I think that is how I'm reading this. Uh, these are also the other way around, but I think that's because it's subtracting damage. I don't know. Coming back here, so we now have our thing. It's going to say apply the update, and there is all that. So this is now working, and if we go back in here, we have this register effect, but it's not technically registered yet, so now we have to call it. So we registered it, sort of, but like I said, if you just kind of try and close it, it's going to say, hey, basically there's still something missing. So we still have to call some more stuff. So let's say new death Deathsomnia effect, and now the Deathsomnia effect is being called, and then we could say the status effect category, and we'll say harmful. Now you could say dot, and I think there's only three of them: harmful, beneficial, and neutral. Now this is clearly going to be harmful, and then this is going to need a color. So if I just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I think it needs 7 numbers. So as long as there is 7 numbers in here, it'll do something. It'll give you some sort of color. And then from here, we would just do dot, and then you could do the add attribute modifier. And I'm eventually gonna not have this, but this would be like if you want to add the special effects. Let's go back into the status effects, the cool things that are on here. But what if I wanted to apply luck? That's boring. What if I wanted to add health boost, or give myself a speed, or attack speed, attack damage? Let's look at generic max health. So what I'm gonna do for generic max health is we're just gonna copy this this whole thing right here, even all the way up to here. Control C, and then I'm just gonna be lazy and Control V. All right, and now that we have that in, we can hit enter on here, and then we can hit enter on here, and it's gonna say, oh, there seems to be a little. I just realized. So remember when I was putting out the example and I was doing it like this? This closes the whole registries. There's supposed to be one thing here, and then obviously this would be a comma. So now it's saying there's a missing one here. There's that. So now there is technically a status effect that is working. The what this does, so you have a lot of your generics. So let's do your entity attributes dot, and this is the list that I was talking about. And like I said, I was there in the past. I tried to look at generic flying speed, and I was like, hey, can I try and add the a speed by 4? And it didn't do anything. So I would recommend just doing some, just test all of them that work for you, I guess. So for max health, what this would do is if I have the effect, it's going to also add to the player entity attributes. It's going to add something. It's going to affect the player somehow. Zombie spawn reinforcements. I haven't tried this one, but I do plan to do so in the future. I don't think it's going to work with the player, but we're going to see how it works. I think it'd be really cool to figure that one out. But generic max health, for every level that I have it's gonna add 4 hearts, and it's going into operation addition. Now you can do there is no subtraction. That's not how things work in here. So everything will either be an addition or they're going to be multiply. You can multiply the total or multiply the base. Um, I I usually multiply it by the total. And if you want a negative, so if I want to divide by the total, hit negative. And if you want to subtract, you have to make sure this is negative while keeping this in addition. So negative addition. That's a very weird way to put it, but there is no subtraction. In this case, subtraction does not exist. You have to add negative numbers to subtract. So that is how those work. I am just gonna close this out, however, because I don't want there to be an attribute like that. And then how do I basically finish this? Well, we have to do public static void, and then this is where we're going to register uh, custom. Actually, we could just say effects, just like that. And then we would put in here all of the effects that we make. So for our Deathsomnia, and then it's going to equal the register Deathsomnia effect, and it's going to ask for the string ID, and or technically the name. let's change it to name because I like it being name. When I see ID, I sometimes get a little confused when reading it. I prefer the name, so it makes sense when I see name. What is the name of the effect? And then it would be Deathsomnia. And then we'll close it like that. And then we need to register our effects. If you know exactly where, good job. You've been paying attention. So let's register these effects. Let's go custom effects dot register effects, and every time I make a new thing on here, so now if I basically had an effect 2, something like that, I would have to register Control C, Control V. This would be your effect 2, and then you would have to Control D, the effect 2, and give it another name like that. So that is how you would do more. And then every time you add an effect, you are going to need to add in a new custom effect, and then add all your cool stuff that you're wanting to add. And then you should be all good to go. I am going to personally, we're gonna get rid of that. We're gonna get rid of that. And surprisingly, although we didn't make a blocker an item, we are going to. Oh, I spelled this wrong. Deathsomnia. Just noticed that. So actually, before we get into that texture, let's get into our assets, and we actually also need to make a special lang file. So let's call for this, and we're going to say the effect dot, and then we're going to call it our mod dot, and then we're going to want to call our effect, and then our effect is going to have a name. I just wanted to do that real quick so it leaves me alone. I don't like it when it's all orange like that. Which this is called Deathsomnia, and that is the same name that we put in this name. So whatever that it is, because it's your string name, which is going to be your mod ID name. So that is basically what this is saying, is that whatever my mod ID is, and then it's going to colon my name. That's kind of what's happening. So we have this, my mod ID, and the Deathsomnia effect, and then we're just going to call this Deathsomnia. And you'll see in the game how it affects. It's like when you hover over it with your mouse, it'll like tell you what effect you have. Um, and then hopefully someone would like have to guess what it is that they have. But that is that. So let us make the textures. But before we actually do that, um, let's go into our, make sure I'm inside of mine. We're going to add a new directory called mob effect. And this is where we are going to put in our texture. Now, one thing I want to point out before I do the little time lapse, I want to really note, like really grind this in your mind for a moment. I always have this set as my default because the items and blocks are usually 16 by 16, but effects are a little bit different. Effects, for whatever reason, are 18 by 18. And so, with that in mind, let's get started on what I would say is the Deathsomnia effect. Hello, it is I, your fancy editor, and today I'm here to talk to you about complexity and simplicity. Normally a lot of topics are simple. I just like to be detailed, and so it's hard to talk about everything that is simple, so I make it complex. Because I'm trying to give you a bunch of situational ideas, because this effects can go in a lot of way. In the beginning, what I was trying to say was like they're situational, but at the same time, I mean they're rambunctious. They almost have they're just chaos. Based on the situations that you put them in, how they get them, what they do. There's so many things that they can do because there's so many things that you can do to the entity itself. Um, and because they are just such chaos, it is just ridiculous rambunctiousness. But beyond that, this, like I said, this is one of my favorite topics. I do want to have a complete new series in which, I mean, it's going to be nothing like this. This is basically just trying to show you either the basics, how to copy things in Minecraft, and stuff like that. Um, and then we're gonna get into the the meaty stuff. So my videos are probably gonna be quotes even more boring, coming from me, because they're not as fun. They'll be technical, but they'll be educational. They'll really be teaching you, what it is that you are trying to do, because it is hard for me to tell you what it is that you're trying to do. There's so many people who have all these ideas, and what I need to do is I need to show each piece, right? I need to show you how to make all the puzzle pieces, and it's up to you to tell you to figure out how you want the puzzle to look. The puzzle, there is no completed puzzle. That a mod is, it's just changing things and adding things. But if I show you just the pieces, you can put the pieces together how you feel. And that is how I feel like putting that out there. I was going to do a stream for the entity, but I decided I'm not going to stream because, I mean, it's already a long topic as it is. And then if somebody was like trying to watch it, it'd be longer if it was a stream than not. And so that's why I'm specifically not going to have it, because if somebody watches it who is not part of the stream, then they're going to have a much more difficult time with the tutorial, and I would feel bad for that. So, let's get back on to the video. I think that is all my notes. So, hopefully you got good understanding with this. And also, I think this texture looks terrible, but I was just thinking on the fly. All right. This is the effect that I chose to have. I don't know. I kind of thought of this, and I once I got to here, I was thinking about trying to add the bed, but then for whatever reason my bed texture is missing, and I didn't feel like repulling it out. So you don't have to run the data gen. So let's just get into the client. All right, here we are back in our beautiful Minecraft world. Let's do slash time set night. So we're gonna go to sleep. The night is there, so here we are, sweet dreams, we're sleeping, and then we should wake up and everything is fine. Now, there is no current way to get the effects, so we're going to have to use this using commands. So if I do slash effect, give at s, and then I have the Deathsomnia effect, and it will be added. There it is. It says Deathsomnia. Right now it only lasts for 30 seconds because that is the default. If you want to give it to yourself more, you can just add 1,000 seconds, so that's like 16 minutes. Yeah. So that is there now. And now if I slash time set night, and then I come into here and I'm sleeping. You gotta be kidding me. All right, so I did kind of made a mistake. So actually, if I just kind of get rid of this and just show you what I did, just so you know what I did. If you go into status effect and then you go into your can apply update effect. So right now well, okay, let's grab this, Control C. And then let's go into our Deathsomnia effect, and then let's add this part, and then we're going to add another one, and then we're going to add a return statement saying false. So if this is true, then return false. Set this to your custom effects dot, and then your Deathsomnia. So this is basically saying apply update effect. So basically, this works when it's applied, but it's basically saying it'll I don't really know how to describe this. So your can apply update effect. So this says this is what the effect does, but it will never actually apply it in the world if you don't basically say it true or false. And so that's what can apply update effect does, is basically saying, if I here it is, if I this, can it'll update when this is basically true. And that is when your this is here. I don't know why that particularly, I don't know why that is. but that is how that is. So now if I am in the game, I did have to reload it second time because it didn't work the first time. So it is nighttime, right? If I slash, I gotta do this again, effect give at S, and then I have the Deathsomnia. So it is on the side here, and then I go to sleep in the bed, I'll die. And, well, because my respawn point was set, it will set me back to where I died. My stuff will kind of explode everywhere, and it's still night because the night did not complete because I died. So this is more of like an inconvenience than anything because I didn't teleport myself or set myself on fire. Those would just be not inconvenient, but just annoying. But those are, that is the Deathsomnia effect. How do you get it? I'm going to currently put it that there is no way to get it because I do plan in the next video when we talk about custom entities. Um, you're going to get it by the custom entity. And then just to extra iterate from the previous video with the potions, like I said, if you wanted to add something into status effects now, if I just write custom effects dot Deathsomnia, this now will work, and you can override anything that's a status effects with your custom effects. I'm going to put this back at haste so it doesn't break anything, but that is now working. So this effect is now working. Please remember to I don't know, can you? Most annoying thing ever, but it is now working. So I mean, you can have your own textures. If you don't, you will just get like basically it's that missing item texture where it's that black and magenta checkerboard. No big deal, anyways. But that is all I'm going to be doing for this video. So thank you guys so much for watching, and without further ado,